Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for another Pivot Artist interview. Today, we're talking to Dine artist Jerrel Singer, and we're excited to hear more about his artwork. Let's just jump right into it.
So our first question is, how did you first join the Pivot Show?
Uh, the picture show, I was approached by Landis Bahi. Uh, he did a little show over at the tattoo shop where he works at. And he asked if we wanted to display some skateboards. I said, yeah, I would love to do that.
Awesome.
Yes, we've been talking with a lot of the original artists from the very beginning in the last few weeks, and it's been fun to hear about that. The second question is kind of a follow-up to that, and we've been asking everyone what pivot means to them, since Dwayne and Landis have their definitions and their ideas about it.
Well, pivot just means when you're skateboarding, you stop and you pivot on your wheels, either go left or right, and you go do circles, anything like that. So that's what that means to me. And mostly when doing the skateboard, you want to make just something different where you want to see a point of interest. So that's more like the pivot area.
Do you skateboard? This is a random jump in. I'm curious.
A long time ago, I used to. I don't do it no more. If I do it now, I'll probably fall on my butt and hurt myself.
It's fun hearing everybody's kind of definitions of pivot and like some of the people who have like a skating background and how that kind of like influences, the concepts that pivot means to them, but then like all of the different personal things and all of the moments in people's lives where there are these shifts. So it's really cool to hear about that. Another question kind of pivoting again is, how did you first get into art?
Art? I didn't want to do it when I was growing up. I had a lot of family members that were artists, aunts, uncles, cousins, and at first I didn't take no interest in it. But during school I was always drawing something. I always had a pencil, paper, listening to class, exercises and everything. I was just mostly just sketching on the side. But my first love, I was an engineering student.
Oh, wow.
So after my father was in the hospital, I had to quit school, and so I was in there taking care of my dad while he was sick. And so during that time, I just picked up the pencil and paper again, and I started sketching, drawing. And when my father passed away, after that, I went back to school to become an artist. I decided to take it a little more seriously. And I went to school, and I didn't get to finish because, when you're an artist, you're like, oh, I want to get out there, I want to do something.
Yeah.
And as always happens, and I got a funny story. I had one of my uncles come into my classroom. I won't mention his name, but it's a good story. But he was walking around, in the classroom, looking at all the students and everybody. And the teacher goes, "Oh, we got an artist here," and he's saying hi, and I'm watching him, and I'm trying to hide. And he walks up, and I'm trying to sneak out, and the teacher goes, "Well, where are you going?" And then my uncle goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm learning." And he goes, "What are you doing?" He said, "You don't need this. You already know how to do art. You don't need it." I said, "Well, I do know how, but you have to start somewhere too. You have to learn how to do the basics and everything." I said, "A lot of stuff I wasn't taught by my aunts and uncles, but here I get to learn."
That's a good story. For art, I think it's one of those, like, you have to know what the box is to think outside of the box and like all the basics, and then you can like build off of that in really amazing ways.
Exactly. Yep.
So the next question maybe ties to your getting into art, like talking about your dad being sick and like your life taking a change. And we've been asking everyone right now with the pandemic and the other stuff going on, what does art mean to you under these kinds of circumstances?
Well, I guess for me, everything slowed down a lot. I had a really busy schedule. I was almost doing a show almost every weekend, traveling all over, the Southwest United States. Uh, for me, I think it was a much needed break too, because I was pretty much overwhelmed. Uh, Maybe my art was suffering. I wasn't really reaching my full potential. I wasn't really enjoying it as much. And I know a lot of my artist friends, they weren't able to sell work. They're still struggling and everything. And it's difficult to say. It's for me, it was a reboot to my system. I I learned how to redo a lot of things. Some things that I wanted to work on, some things I didn't want to work on. But at that time, you have different friends, family helping you out. Some of them really want you to succeed. Some of them, they're saying, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. But for me, it's, I want to succeed. I need to succeed. This is what I am. This is who I'm going to be.
Yeah. This next question we've been asking all the different pivot artists, some more or less have, more overt things in their art that deal with either traditional imagery or designs or things that they've learned from their grandparents or just relatives and traditions in their art. And we were wondering how being Native might influence you as an artist, or what it means to you to possibly be an artist and be Native.
Looking at all the imagery growing up, that's just what I know. When I was studying art, I was looking at all the images from like the European artists, the Renaissance era. They grew up looking at that. That's just part of their background. So being Native artists, everybody wants to put you in a box. You're like, oh, that's all you do is just Native imagery, Native art. It's not. It's just how I was brought up. That's how, if you want to throw a football, you throw with your right hand. You throw with the left hand, you throw it. But that's how you were brought up. These images are always ingrained in our minds right now in our society of how our parents instilled in us.
So our last question kind of builds off of that, and I was the one who got to put together the feature post, and I chose a bunch of your very colorful pieces, and I know that I was immediately drawn to your pieces in the Pivot show, the ones that are up right now, and a big part of that is just the use of such vibrant colors. So if you could talk more about your use of colors and how you are able to capture these landscapes that I think are so recognizable. If anybody visits the Southwest, like you can like basically feel that landscape coming through your art. So if you could talk more about just your style, maybe.
Well, my style was found on accident. I was painting and I had a canvas on the floor and a lot of it was dripping down because the canvas is so wet, and I was like, and I didn't want to get the floor wet, so I just put another canvas there. And it started dripping there, and they started getting pushed around, and then, I forgot about it until the next day, and I saw it, I'm like, what did I do? And I saw it. So that built upon that, and I started using more bright, vibrant colors. The colors I use are mostly like the colors you see at either sunrise or sunset. And you only see those colors just for a little bit at a time, maybe like a 20, 30 minutes. So that's my goal, is try to capture that whole moment, that when you're watching that sunrise and the sunset and it's reflecting off the clouds or the landscape, and you're just like, I want that. I want to remember that moment. I remember that time when I saw that on the sky. I was there, That's what I'm trying to do, is just capture that amazing memory of your eyes just looking at those amazing scenery.
Yeah, and I think it's awesome because like when people look at your paintings, at least for me, it's like you immediately think like, oh, those are just like too, like not really too vibrant, but just like an impressionistic version of this landscape. But then you're like, no, every single one of those colors shows up in real life. It's
Yeah.
just like you're putting it at that perfect moment of them all together. So I love that. And when we shout out your social media and tag you, I'm excited for our followers and other followers to see how you have like your paintings paired next to just photos that you've taken of the landscape, because you
Uh-huh.
can see those right next to each other and you're like, that rainstorm color palette matches perfectly the other piece that you've made. So it's really cool to put those together, and thanks for helping describe that more, and thanks for chatting with us today.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
Let me give a little shout out to your page. You can follow Jerrel at Jerrel Singer on Instagram. We'll also link his Facebook page on Facebook. And to see more Pivot content, you can always follow the Pivot Instagram page at pivot_skateboard_deck_exhibit. Follow us at the center at Center SW Studies FLC on Instagram. And we'll also link our Facebook, YouTube, all of the fun things we're trying to do online and social media. And as always, a thank you to our crowdfunding supporters who helped us get Pivot to the Center Southwest Studies at Fort Lewis College, and to the LPEA, whose amazing donations also helped us get Pivot here. So thank you.
Thank you.